This recession could last for years. Yes, longer than you could imagine. Some people are saying 5 years. Some people are saying it's not possible. Most recessions on average last for 10 months. In this video, we're going to break that down. So I want to break down why this recession that's going on in the US could last longer than you could imagine. And it's not what you think. Well, it probably is, but it has to do with the devaluation of the US dollar and the Old West and the emergence of BRICS. Now, if you guys don't know what BRICS is an economic alliance with these following 41% of the world's population. That is the countries of Brazil, China, India, South Africa, and Russia. 41.5% of the global population. They're coming together. And they're forming an economic alliance to have their own unified currency and to put the end to the powers of the US dollar. But before we get into that, I want to talk about why the US dollar isn't valuable anymore. So what I'll first do is show you the US debt clock. So you can see why the US dollar today is not as valuable as it was, say, I don't know how many years ago, since 1971, actually, if we want to be real. So this is the US debt clock, and it shows you the US national debt. The US national debt. Now, so you guys can understand, and I'm just going to try and speed this up a little bit. In 1971, Richard Nixon took the dollar off of the gold standard. Now, what does that mean? For every dollar was backed by gold, right? So the US dollar was backed by gold until 1971. Well, why was that? Because America is a consumer economy and America is built on debt. Most Americans are in so much debt, but they wanted to make sure that America continues to consume. And unfortunately, they had to be able to continue to give money to the US population, loans and all sorts, and just cash so people can continue to be consumers. So they had to take the USD off of the gold standard. And that was a very bad thing because of this, today, the US dollar is backed by debt, right? That is the value of the US dollar. It's valued by the word of the US, the strength of the US as a country. And when we look at this debt clock that we're looking at right now, on this side of the screen, you look at this debt clock, it tells you that what is the strength of the US dollar? Well, this is a national debt. It's debt. But let me go back to what I was saying. Okay. Why were they able to get away with this and still maintain the value of the US dollar? And it's because of the US military. Now, Richard Nixon went off to Saudi Arabia and made an alliance with Saudi Arabia. And that was the birth of the petrodollar in the mid-70s, right? The petrodollar. What does that mean? That oil could only be traded with dollars. That made USD the global reserve currency. But why would Saudi Arabia do this? Because the US promised Saudi that they would back them and provide them military arms. Why did Saudi need this? Because they wanted to be the superpower in the Middle East, and they had a key rival, Iran, and the US wanted to support them in that and put sanctions on Iran, which is what made Iran's economy plummet, because basically the West sanctioned Iran, right? So this is how the US got away with this, making Saudi only agree to trade oil for dollars. Now, so this is why the US dollar has been a strong currency, because of this. Despite this incredible debt that the country had, well, ultimately, everybody that buys oil, specifically from Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil distributor, I believe that's Saudi, but one of the largest, if it's not, specifically, they have to buy it with the US dollar. Now, this makes everybody, before you get oil, you have to trade it to US, you have to trade your money to US dollar, putting more money in dollar every day, and then you could buy your oil. Now, what is happening in the world? We see with the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia and Ukraine invasion, we were seeing this, and now other countries started questioning whether they could purchase oil with their own currency. And even we saw Saudi Arabia say they might consider accepting the purchase of oil with Chinese yen. Now, this very thing means that the US dollar is not going to be sought after anymore because people can bypass that and just buy oil directly. Now, here's the thing. We saw in news that even Ghana have decided that they're going to purchase oil with gold. And why would that be a good decision for Ghana? Because Ghana produces gold. Ghana produces gold. So they're saying, look, we don't want to put our money into dollars and increase the dollar. Screw that. We're going to put our money, our gold, not even our currency. We're going to put our gold, because guess what? Why is this the most valuable thing? Because gold is the most valuable resource. Well, one of, right? For trading. Okay, put it that way. It's one of the most valuable resources for trading, and that's what the US dollar was backed by, gold. So Ghana produces gold. So why would they trade their money into dollars? And they have their economy lose out, when they could just buy oil with what they have, gold. Boom. And just like that, we see the devaluation of the US dollar. So let's get back to this story and why this is going to affect you with this recession. So yes, we're seeing this recession due to all sorts, especially the war in Ukraine and the billions of dollars that Biden has given. Also the aftermath of COVID, inflation, and we're seeing the housing markets crash. Well, not crash, but we're seeing the housing market in the US go down. It was doing so well before, but right now it's not as good as it was. We're seeing so many things happen. So why is it that the dollar is now devalued and we're going to have a bigger recession because of this? Because the whole global economy is shifting power. It's shifting from the old West, is what people are calling it, to the East. That's where the power is shifting. And everybody wants to get in on this. So let's talk about BRICS. BRICS, as I said, is an economic alliance with Brazil, China, India, South Africa, and Russia. Saudi Arabia also wants to get in on this. This is 41% of the world's population, and they represent $22.6 trillion in spending power. Now, catch this. More countries want to join BRICS. Nigeria, Egypt. These are the most populous countries in Africa, specifically Nigeria and Egypt as well. Algeria. There's so many of them. If I could show you this picture of this map so you guys can see how many countries want to join BRICS. There are so many. So the red are countries that already exist in BRICS. And then the orange represents the countries that want to join BRICS. Now, if this happens, the US will lose its power, right? It will lose its power. And when it comes down to it, I was explaining the US and Saudi, their relationship is kind of rocky. But it's clear that the US needs Saudi Arabia more than Saudi Arabia needs the US. And we can see that in how Biden, Mr. Joe Biden, who had refused to see the crown prince when Biden first came into office, and he was like being a snob, Biden went all the way to Saudi Arabia, and he even pardoned the crown prince for the killing that, I don't want to get into that. But either way, we see that the Saudi Arabia understands the world is shifting, the powers of the world is shifting, and the U.S. is no longer a superpower. Well, it is. No, let me take that back. The U.S. is no longer as powerful as it used to be. These countries are getting stronger. And that's going to affect the U.S. economy. It's going to affect the people of the U.S. And somebody said this. I saw this in a podcast. I think it was so genius. They say the 1800s was the time of the British. The 1900s was the time of America. The 2000s is a time of Asia. And they're saying the 2100s is the time of Africa. So right now we're seeing power shift from the US. And this is why, if you don't wisen up, this situation will really affect the West. And this recession could last longer than you guys expected. But there are ways that you can protect yourself and be recession proof. There are ways, and I'm going to break them down. So, how do you be recession proof? Invest in assets. I just wanted to mention one thing. Another reason why the dollar, before I go into this, but another reason why the dollar has been declining is because people have been investing in other currencies. We saw the rise or the emergence of the euro in January 1st, 1999. They launched the euro, and that has been an alternative currency for people to go to. Then we see crypto, and then now we're seeing central bank digital currencies emerge. So there are so many alternatives. The dollar no longer has the strength, and people, even Americans, don't want to keep their money in dollar, especially as we're getting more financially literate in the world. We understand that no matter what, when you have dollars, when you have any currency, inflation is going to happen. So over time, especially long periods of time, you're going to lose your money. So what is better for you than to put your money in any currency is to put your money in assets. So now let's break down some of these assets that you could look into. The first one is the stock market. And yes, the stock market is not doing great right now. And that's what myopic investors think. It's not doing great. Let me pull out. But if you're going to play the long game, and this is what Buffett says you should do, Warren Buffett says you should do, play the long game. If you play the long game, this right now is an opportunity because the stock prices are going to get really low. And this is the smallest buy-in that you can get. This is a small, not like ever, but in recent times, this buy-in is going to be really small. So right now is the time to invest, especially if you have the money to invest for the long run. Now, I'm not talking about the people that want to invest and need the money now to feed. No, make sure you have cash in hand to be able to feed yourself, right? But outside of that, for your future investments, right? Make sure you invest. Like if you could invest in stocks, and hey, I'm not a financial advisor, so I just want to say that I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just talking in theory. But if you can invest now, if you can invest in stocks now, when the prices are low, you can see high returns. You can yield high returns over the next few years, 10 years, even longer. So this is a nice time to buy. The next thing that you can do is buy precious metals, buy gold, buy silver. This is the thing. This is the most valuable thing. Silver, gold, right? Silver and gold, right? If you guys buy precious metals, boom, that's valuable. Hey, the US dollar used to be backed by gold, right? It's no longer backed by gold, and that's when it went to crap. So that's what I'm saying. But gold is never going to lose its value, right? So if you go ahead and get gold, boom, get silver, boom. The last thing you can do is real estate. 90% of the world's millionaires got there through real estate because guess what? No matter what, right? People are going to always need a place to live. I've heard people say if you can provide human necessities, you can do well in business. And real estate, like I said, 90% of the world's millionaires are in real estate. Get it through real estate. So if you guys can invest in real estate, because rent always goes up. Rent always goes up. So right now is a good time to invest in real estate. The other thing I would say, and this is more, I'd say invest in yourself. That's the last one. And that's probably the most important one. Invest in your own financial education. Invest in your own business if you have a business. Invest in your own education and business education in general. Invest in yourself, because actually when it comes down to it, you are your biggest asset. Because hey, if you're not alive, all these things don't even matter. So you are your biggest asset. So make sure you take care of yourself first, and, invest in yourself in a way that it can appreciate over time. That's why education, nobody can ever take your education away from you. Invest in that, and you can see high return. You can yield high returns. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Leave a comment down below. And you're watching the University of Making Money. I'm your host, Kenim O, and I'll see you in the next one. A peace.